Good morning, friends. Today I'm going to be demonstrating the making of a design I created yesterday called Ballgown, and you can see it on the screen here of the computer. And so I have run the first step, which of course is the external outline of the bag and the placement area for the zipper. So let me take my hoop over to the cutting table and attach the zipper, and I'll meet you there. And again, I'm going to use gold thread, so of course it doesn't show up very well, unfortunately, but you can see the area here that I'm pointing to is the area where you will center the plastic part of the zipper coil itself, right in this runway here. And I will attach this red zipper. It is 1 inch wide, and I have found that if you have 1 inch wide zipper, which they should roughly all be, number 3 zippers should be 1 inch wide, and number 3 is a nylon zipper, which is what I'd recommend for these little pouches or purses. If you line the zipper edge up to the edge of the exterior placement line, it should basically line up right in the middle of the runway, as I call it. So let me take some tape and place tape on this, tape it down, and here at the top, the bottom, and in the middle, and I'll get back with you in a moment. All right, this camera's going to drive me insane. I'm back, obviously, and I have taped down my zipper at the top, at the center, and at the bottom, and I'm going to take this over, if you'll walk with me, over to the sewing room. And next I will run the placement stitch that will tack down the zipper. Uh-oh, my zipper's caught on there. Anyhow, I will be right back in a moment. All right, you can see the zipper has been sewn down, and it did come basically perfectly centered the way I placed it up against the exterior lines. So anyhow, our next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the back lining and the first front piece of fabric. Now, here's where you have to decide which piece to place down first. Let me go to the computer right next to the sewing machine, and the next piece of fabric we put down on the front will be the fabric that will be right here. So I'm going to, and this is the quilting that's built in, I'm going to put a fabric down that is a beautiful black, red, and gold color. I'll show you in a moment. And I'm not going to be, since it's really so pretty, I'm going to skip the step. I've put this fill here and this in 2 separate steps, so you don't have to run both of them. You can run one or both or none. It's up to you. But I'm going to omit running this step that has this fill here because the fabric itself is so pretty. I don't want to detract from that. So let me turn the camera off for a moment while I get the hoop off the machine and go over to the cutting table where the fabric's at. Okay, I'm at the cutting table, and I've turned the hoop upside down, and we're going to put on the first piece of lining. And you see this line right here, which is the tack down of the zipper on the other side. This is the bobbin side, obviously. I'm going to put my piece of fabric right down about 1/4 inch past this line here because this is where it's going to stitch right on the same line. So let me take this piece of blue fabric face down, make sure it's centered between each of the exterior lines, and let me see. All right, now I've gone up too far. And of course you can see I've cut it a little weird, and it's got a little place in it. Let me pull it down a bit. Okay, that should be fine. Let me tape it down over here on the corner, right in the middle, and here on the left. All right, now let's let this, I'll pick it up by the side over here and let it just roll over to the front. And now we're looking at the front of the hoop, and I'll take and fold this over at least once. Well, let me grab my tape first. Fold this over and just tape it right here. Oh, come on. Okay, there it is. I think it'll stay because we're not going to be needing this piece of the lining for quite a few steps. So now let me take the first piece of fabric for the front, and I'm going to take this beautiful, beautiful piece of fabric here, and it is directional, so I just need to take and turn it over, and then it will end up in the right orientation. And let me tape it down, and I taped it right, basically the same place along the edge. This can actually go along the edge or a 1/4 inch past the edge of the zipper. All right, now we're going to go back over to the machine, and it's going to run a line of stitches right across here, which will tack down this front piece of fabric and the back piece of lining. And on the way over, I'm going to stop and turn my iron on and get it hot because I'm going to want to do a little bit of pressing in a moment. So let me just put the phone/camera down, and I'll be back in a minute. All right, that stitching has been accomplished. You can see it right here, and it looks fine on the front. Let me check the back though to make sure it caught the whole thing, and yes, it did. So the back is fine too. Now what I'm going to do now is take a little piece of what I'm using as batting, which is, I don't know what this is made out of, but you can see it's a little thick. So I don't know what it is actually. I bought it at Joann's. It was on clearance for $3 a yard, and so I bought 3 yards. But it gives the bag a nice feel to it, a nice where it doesn't feel so flimsy. So I've cut this piece down 1 inch. I've cut it. Let me see. This is a 6x10 bag. I regularly cut my fabric 7x11, so I cut this 6x11. And so I'm going to take and I'm going to place it right about 1/4 inch underneath this seam, this stitch line here. Fold my fabric down over it. Let me see, is it going to be? Yes, it's going to be covered on both sides. So just kind of pat it down. And I'm going to take this now to the iron, and I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to put something, it's just a piece of cotton fabric. I'm going to put that over it and press it, because this gold here looks like it might, I don't know if it'd come off or not, but let me just put something over it and grab my new iron here, which is nice because it is cordless. And it's very hot. Now, how long it will stay hot, I don't know, because I don't do large projects. I don't know if it would work for a quilt or not, but anyhow, we've got a nice crease there. Well, I can smell something that hopefully it's not burning. Oh well, I'm sure it's okay. Anyhow, I'm going to take this now back to the sewing machine, and it's going to run a line of stitches right around underneath the zipper and around the other side. So hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, you can see that the stitching has been done, and the next step would be this step where it puts this quilting in. However, as I said, since this is such a beautiful piece of fabric, I'm not going to do any stitching over it. I think it holds its own. So I'm going to skip ahead to the next step, step number 6, and that will be the placement lines for the next piece of fabric I'm going to put down. So let me put this back in the sewing machine and let it do its thing, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back to the cutting table. You can see the placement lines here for the next piece of fabric, and I'm going to take a piece of red faux leather and place over the entire design, well, the fabric part of the design, not the zipper. And I'm going to, let me see, pull it up. I'm going to have to obviously tape this down since it's still from the roll and it's still rolled up. So I'm going to tape this down on all 4 corners, and then I'm going to take it back to the embroidery machine, and it's going to do the placement or the tack down stitches for this piece of faux leather. So hold on, I'll be back. Alrighty, I'm here at my kitchen bar where I'm going to sit here and do the trimming, and you can see that it has tacked down this piece of faux leather, and I'm going to trim starting right, come down like this, along here, and then straight down like, well, no, I'm going to go off to the side actually like this, and do the same on the other side. And so I'll show you how it looks after I trim it. Be right back. Okay, I have finished the trimming, and I got so close here I trimmed off the stitches, but it should be okay. The satin stitches are the next thing to be run, and they have an underlayment, so it should catch this right here and tack it down fine. So I've left this at the top here for the moment, and off to the sides I've left this straight off, and I haven't touched the bottom. So I'm going to do the satin stitches next, and I'll meet you back soon. All right, the satin stitching has been completed. I think it looks beautiful, and the next thing that will, it's a little puffy there, the next thing that will happen is beautiful quilting here on the ball gown itself, and it's a very intricate quilting, so it's going to take a while, but I'll be back, hopefully. Probably take a half hour, but of course it'll be just a second here on the film, so I'll be back shortly. Okay, the quilting is finished, and if you can see, it is quite elaborate and beautiful. And so the next step we have will be, there'll be a line, a placement line, even though there's really nothing to place, but there'll be a line going right through here, basically on top of this line that's here. And that will, because we're going to have another satin stitch go along here. After that placement line, we're going to take and chop off this little piece of faux leather right there. So let me run that next step. Okay, this next line was run just ever so slightly above the original line, and you can see it ran through here, but that's going to be covered up in just a moment. So I'm going to go in and chop off this little extra piece of faux leather right now. Okay, I'm back. For some reason, I thought there was another step involved, but there's not. I'm just imagining things, apparently. The next thing that will happen is we'll have a satin stitch go all the way across here. And so just hold on and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back, and as you can see, the satin stitching has been completed across the top there. And I think it's really quite beautiful. So the next thing I need to do is take this, finally we can let this go back to the back of the hoop where it belongs. Take the tape off, let it roll back to the back. And let's remove these. Well, I can't get that one. Okay, it'll have to stay. I can get that one though. Let's roll this down. Smooth it down with your hands. Well, and take some tape and let's tape it right here. And tape this right here. All right, and turn it back over. And the next thing that will happen is a repeat of one of the prior stitch I don't know what I'm trying to say. What am I trying to say? You know what I'm trying to say. So it will go along here, and I think I'm going to take and stick in some red thread, so there will be a red nice highlight right here, decorative highlight. So it'll go all across here, down here, and tack all this down. Meanwhile, it's tacking, of course, the back piece of lining. So let me change thread and I'll tackle that, and I'll come back to you shortly. Okay, I'm back, and that has been accomplished, and you can see the red thread there. I like the way that looks. So I'm pleased with that. The next thing we're going to do is take off the tape over here that originally held the zipper down. We're going to open the zipper. Well, we're going to try to. Okay. Well, it's almost coming. There we go. All right, and take it over about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way. And so now we're going to take our piece that's going to be on the back of our bag and make sure, let's see, all right, that is the correct placement for it. So just turn it over this way like this, and it remains in the same position to be the correct orientation. So place it, wait a minute, no, I'm telling you a story. I always get ahead of myself here, don't I? I need to put the little pieces down for the, these little pieces. So I just use, I keep my pieces of fake leather when I cut pieces off, and I use them to make my little pieces for the straps to attach to. So take, and I usually put them about 1 inch in, and so and I cut these 3 inches long and 3/4 inches wide, and I'm going to just line them up with, let them naturally touch the top of the, oh, I've got a piece of tape on my finger over here, get off. Well, all right, I'm going to just let this naturally, since I know they're both 3 inches, I'm going to let it just touch the edge of the frame of the hoop, and let me make sure they're in about the same on each side. That appears to be. And I'm going to take, now I'm going to take, carefully place down tape these down. Oh, don't move, please. Okay, and then I'm going to take and tape the metal pieces down so they don't wiggle around and get someplace they shouldn't. Okay, and one more. All right, now getting back to what I said previously, let's take and let's lay this out here where it should, looking at it, we can see that that's the correct orientation, and just take and flip it over like this and let it cover the bottom here. Let it cover the top slightly past the edge of the zipper, which it is. It's actually a good deal past the edge of the zipper, but it's fine here. You can see the stitch line there, so it covers that on both sides and top and bottom. It seems like there's something else. Oh yes, and then put the other piece of whatever you're using for batting, place it over that, and as soon as I turn the camera off, I'll straighten that out where it's nice and flat, and then I'll take it to the machine, and the embroidery machine will stitch around all four sides, and that will kind of pull the bag together. It'll be all closed up. Just make sure you've got your zipper moved in inside the stitch line, and don't leave it out, or you're going to have a mess getting it back where it should be, because I have done that a number of times. So anyhow, let me turn the camera off and do the stitching, and I'll be right back. All right, we're on the home stretch now. You can see that the stitching has occurred along all four sides, and we're going to turn it over to the back, and you should have one piece of fabric remaining, which is the other piece of lining, which we're going to take and I forgot to show you this earlier, how it's tacked down fine. So we're going to take that piece of lining fabric and just kind of place it over what's already there, just making sure again that we are above the zipper by at least 1/4 of an inch. And then let's take and tape this down on all four sides, and we'll take it and run it the last step. We'll take and run the last step in the embroidery machine, and that will conclude the sewing, and then we can do some trimming and finish her up. So I have taped on all four corners, and I'm going to take it and run the last step, and I'll be back in a moment. All right, now what the last, the stitching has been completed. What this last round did, or last color change or step did, is that it left a nice area for the bag to be turned through, which we'll do in just a moment. See, it started sewing right here, around, down the side, and stopped here. And so that's the back, and then turning back to the front. But we're more concerned on this last one with the back, because that was tacking that last piece of lining down. So what I'm going to do now is remove the purse from the hoop and go somewhere and sit down where I can take and trim. I'm going to trim, let's see, I can start right up here where the stitching is and trim 1/4 of an inch outside the stitch line all the way around, like I say, leaving about 1/4 inch, and end up right here. And then I cut at an angle like this and leave the rest of this long like that. Don't bother this lower piece or these two pieces, the two pieces of lining. Let them stay long. And so let me do that, do the trimming, and then I'll come back and tell you what else to do next. All right, now you see I've trimmed about 1/4 inch all the way around and cut my little pieces at an angle here. I'm going to pull these two pieces of lining back, and then everything below these two pieces of lining, the fabric, the faux vinyl, all of that needs to be cut off. And so just cut right above the stitch line here. Just cut about 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch right through here, and just throw that, what's left of that, away, keeping these two pieces. These are very important. So anyhow, let's all do trimming, and I'll be back in a moment. All right, I'm back, and when I cut that off, there was a piece of vinyl left, and it's at least 3/4 of an inch wide, so I'm going to keep that. I keep a big container of just these little pieces like this to make my little attachments for the straps. So now we have these two pieces left here, and what I'm going to do now, and this is open of course, I'm going to cut the camera off and turn the bag through here, and that'll just take a moment, so I'll be right back. All right, I have, before I did this, I ran over and turned my iron back on, so it's heating up. Now, what we've got left, we've got these two pieces, and you need to take the shorter one, turn it in, and which would be about there, and then press that down, and then take the longer one and tuck it in also, like that. And well, I can't get that in there, but I will in a moment. And press it, and make sure it's, you know, everything's in as well as you can get it. And then go to your sewing machine and start sewing right where my finger's at, and sew a line of stitches right across here, closing up the bottom of the bag. And so I'm going to go first to the iron and then to the sewing machine, and I'll be back in a moment. All right, I did what I said I was going to do, and I've now closed this up with the sewing machine, and did a little bit of trimming of all those little threads that we have hanging everywhere when we're sewing. Now it's already partially come loose, but next we need to take and get rid of the, well, it's paper towels for me, over the zipper area. So let me see if okay, well, I'm gonna have to, of course, put the camera down to finish this so it looks nice, but I'll be right back in just a moment. Okay, I've taken the paper towel out or off of the zipper, and I'm going to now put the camera down one more time and turn the bag through this hole. I'm going to open the zipper up, reach in, and let it be opened up a little bit more, and then I'm going to turn the bag through there, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's completed. All right, she is finally done, and there she is. I think she's quite beautiful. So anyhow, I hope you've enjoyed watching me make this lovely ball gown purse today. And I hope if you buy the pattern, you'll make something beautiful for yourself. And I appreciate you being with me. Hope you have a great rest of the day, and thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.